Do you trust President Trump in bringing about peace? Is he a peacemaker?
President Trump is a doer, and he has a lot of influence on Israel, and we've seen that. So yes, he can make it, but he needs to look at it from all angles, because not every Palestinian is Hamas, and not every Palestinian is armed. Netanyahu has violated agreements left and right, and we know his vision. His vision is that of a greater Israel, and not only infringing on the rights of the Palestinians, but also on neighboring countries. India should stand with international law. India is a two-stater. India is the largest democracy. India believes in international law, and they should go by what international law says, and as it pertains to Israel-Palestine.
The second India-Arab ministerial meeting is taking place in New Delhi, a significant one at a time when we are seeing much turmoil in that part of the world. The focus is going to be on various aspects when it comes to India and the Arab world, but specific to what is happening in Palestine and Gaza as well. To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by the Foreign Minister of the State of Palestine, Minister Varsen Aghabekian. Thank you so much, Minister, for joining me here.
Thank you for hosting me.
Let's begin with the ministerial meeting that you've come here for. This is your first visit to India. What are the expectations?
This would be an important meeting. We will have ministers of foreign affairs of the Arab world gathered. We will have an open discussion with India on shared interests and how we can move on in the best interest of all countries. And I'm sure the issue of Palestine will be at the forefront.
We're looking at a time where there's much turmoil and conflict. And while there was a lot of focus on Gaza, Minister Aghabekian, now we're looking at the world shifting that focus. So explain to our viewers, explain to people in India, what's the situation right now in Gaza as also in West Bank?
Well, I would like people to look at occupied state of Palestine as one integral part, one entity, because the Israeli policy is the same regarding the occupied territory, but its atrocities and violations of Palestinian rights are committed in different ways. In Gaza, we've seen what happened at least in the last 2 years. This was a culmination of violations of decades. The situation is still very volatile. We have a partial ceasefire, albeit we're not seeing the atrocities committed to the extent we have seen in the last 2 years, but still killing is still ongoing, injuries are still ongoing, structures are being destroyed, but as I said, not to the extent as before. What we need to see is a complete ceasefire and a sustainable one. Because if we want to embark on immediate relief and rehabilitation efforts, we need the fire to cease completely. On the West Bank, the situation is as volatile, but in a different form. Today, we have unleashed settlers that terrorize Palestinian lives day in and day out. And we have more encroachment on the people's rights. We have more annexation of land, more built up of settlements and settlement units. And all of that undermines the prospects of the two-state solution and the hopes of Palestinians for sovereignty and end of occupation.
You spoke about ceasefire, so let's just get this on record, because the United States of America claims that ceasefire holds. That's not the case. What kind of violation, if you're saying a ceasefire violation, what kind of violation are we looking at? Because Israel would say self-defense.
Well, people are still being killed in Gaza. We had, since the agreement was signed, we had about 700 Palestinians killed. We had 3 times that number people injured. We had about 2,500 structures demolished. Yes, this doesn't amount to what we have seen before, but it's still ongoing and we need it to stop completely.
Do you think that after the October 7th attack, while there has been a lot of focus on Palestine, on Gaza, that a lot of the world knows what's happening, but it has also changed the situation of Palestine and the rights or the demand of a two-state solution, that has been diluted?
I think no, because we've seen that other countries have come forward with the recognition of the state of Palestine, because people have come to terms with the fact that if you want stability in that area and you want real peace, then you need to respect the rights of all peoples of the area. And if we talk about Israel-Palestine, the rights of the Israelis, and we have recognized Israel since 1988. Now it is time to recognize the rights of the Palestinians as enshrined in law. The state of Palestine is enshrined in law. The ICJ ruling of 2024 said it very clearly. It said this is occupied territory, all of it, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem. And as such, this occupation needs to be dismantled. The New York Declaration said the same, and it gave us in 42 points what needs to be done so that we move from where Palestine is today until sovereignty and independence.
I ask you this, Minister Aghabekian, is because the Board of Peace, the Charter of Board of Peace, which has about 2026 words, it's a 2026 word document, and not one mention of Gaza or even the two-state solution.
Well, we have welcomed the peace agreement and the Board of Peace as it was stipulated in UN Security Council Resolution 2803. And 2803 was clear. It talks about how we move in Gaza from where we are today until a peace path and the probability of a statehood. So in that regard, we have welcomed the Board of Peace and we hope that it moves in that direction.
Okay. But in terms of the state of Palestine and the Palestinian Authority itself, do you think there has been a sort of a constant move towards delegitimization, not according the kind of dignity and respect and honor that the Palestinian Authority should have had? And how do you see that as opposed to Hamas that ruled Gaza for so many years? Was it a creation to undermine Mahmoud Abbas or Abu Mazen?
Any instability in regards to the oneness of Palestine undermines the future of the Palestinian National Project. So what we aspire to right now is the integrity of the occupied territory and looking at that territory or that state under occupation as one and the future of all of its components interrelated to each other.
Okay. But in terms of the Palestinian Authority itself and your position on Hamas, where do you stand when it comes to the Hamas? Because everybody now calls not just October 7th the terror, an act of terror, but have designated Hamas a terrorist organization, even if it's not done by certain countries. But the fact is that they are considered a terrorist organization. What's your position?
Look, the Palestinian Authority is an arm of the PLO. The PLO is the umbrella of all political factions, and it represents the Palestinian people, whether inside or outside in the diaspora. The PLO has a very clear mandate, and it has signed agreements. There's an agreement on the acceptance and the recognition of the State of Israel. There is a vision of Palestine for the future. And if any political party wants to be part of the Palestinian political structure, it needs to subscribe to the mandate of the PLO. Any Palestinian political party can become part of the PLO, but it needs to accept what the PLO stands for. If Hamas wants to be a political party, then it can join the PLO and it can be part of that structure and that mandate.
But it has to give up arms because that's a mandate that even Trump has sought.
The PLO espouses one country with one weapon, and that one weapon would be with the country as one, not with various political factions.
The defense arm, which is the defense ministry, should Palestine ever be a state.
Yes.
Having said that, President Trump does not make that distinction between the Hamas and armed wing and Palestinian Authority. The latest example is that every Palestinian was banned from the United Nations General Assembly.
Well, it's unfortunate because not every Palestinian is Hamas and not every Palestinian is armed. And we are working with the American administration to ensure that that ban is lifted. Because as Palestinians, many of us were educated in the United States. Many of us have family in the United States. Many Palestinians live in the United States. And as such, that right should be respected.
Do they live in much fear now than ever before?
The Palestinians related to the ban or in general?
In general in the United States, because we've seen quite a bit of action against even those who have stood for the cause of Palestine.
I think the United States needs to, think of international law, think of the rights of the people, because that and only that will bring peace to Israel and Palestine. The United States is an ally to Israel. Everybody knows that. But as an ally and as a friend, you need to think of your allies strategically in the future. If the rights of the people of the region are not respected, and in particular the rights of the Palestinians, we are closest to Israel, and we have the conflict with Israel. Israel occupies the lives of the Palestinians. And unless that is resolved, there will be no real peace in the area. I mean, you can impose a peace, you can postpone problems, but they will resurface because the people eventually want their rights as enshrined in law.
Have things changed for the worse since President Trump came to office? Because he's more than just an ally of Netanyahu. In this board of peace, can Netanyahu be trusted?
Look, at least the war had stopped, even partially. So we take that as a positive step, but we need to build up on that positive step, and we need to beef it up because we need to tie it with international law. We need to tie it with our rights to self-determination. We need to tie it with the New York Declaration and so forth. When it comes to Netanyahu, I think Palestinians have a long history with Netanyahu, and we know the trends when it comes to agreements or ideas for moving on in the future, because Netanyahu has violated agreements left and right, and we know his vision. His vision is that of a greater Israel, and not only infringing on the rights of the Palestinians, but also on neighboring countries.
Zionist as a word is going to be considered hate speech now in the United States of America if used derogatory, in a derogatory manner. Your response to that?
My response to any wrongdoing is wrongdoing, because if any other country was doing what Israel is doing, you would tell that country that what you're doing is wrongdoing. And that wouldn't be against Zionism or anti-Semitic. So what is right is right. If you follow international law, then you're following just that.
Many across the world might think of Palestine as a Muslim-Jew issue. That's not the case. I'm sitting in front of a minister who is Armenian Christian.
Yes, of course.
And Palestine is multi-ethnic, multi-religious to the world. Explain the problem in how the world sees Palestine.
The world needs to understand that the issue of the occupation is not religious. It's not a Jewish-Muslim issue. It's about the politics and the geography. And as such, Palestinians have Palestinian Christians. I'm a Palestinian Christian. And this is the mosaic of the Palestinian society. And we've lived 100 years ago, Muslims, Christians, Jews lived together, they coexisted together, and that coexistence can come back. But that coexistence needs the respect of everybody, the tolerance of everybody, and not the supremacy of one over the other. And as such, what we say, this is not a religious war, this is a war on the land and the rights of the people in the land.
Speaking of the rights of people and the fight that you've been fighting, how do you see the role of the Arab world? We've seen how Iran stood by this cause and fought on the side of the Palestinians. But what is your take on the role of the Arab world? Were they as forthcoming? Should they have done more?
Look, the Arab world is the backbone of the Palestinians. We might disagree on certain things, but in the final analysis, the issue of Palestine is of interest to all. And as such, we always ask for more from the Arabs, from all our allies, because we think we need to garner all the support we can. Today, I think the Arabs have stood tall when it comes to the ceasefire. There was a consensus on the displacement of Palestinians. If you remember when the talk was on the Riviera and the displacing of the Gazans, all the Arab countries, collectively and individually, said it very loudly, no on the displacement. Today, they are all on the two-state solution. Saudi Arabia has spearheaded the New York Declaration, and it has put all of its weight behind it. I believe there's a consensus in the Arab world on the resolution of this conflict, of this occupation, and the materialization of the two states.
I was just going to ask you about the Riviera. Do you think the border of peace or the plan for Gaza is not just to do with peace, but more to do with land? And the land would not be Israeli or Netanyahu's, but more so America and America taking a call on what they want to do with that land. Is that a concern? Is that a real concern for Palestine?
People are speculating. Yes, it would be a concern because that land is a Palestinian land. And any Riviera should be for its people, the Palestinian people.
So that's a concern that this land could very well not be Palestinian.
Well, hopefully it wouldn't because it is Palestinian land.
Is there any way of being on an engagement or a negotiating table with America, or is it always going to be a U.S.-Israel decision that would be thrust upon Palestine?
We need to push. We need to be around the table. We're not a menu. We have to be around the table on the decision-making level because today for Palestinians, it's enough that people are continuing to talk about us. They need to speak with us. We are the side that needs to be spoken to, just like the world speaks to the Israelis. We are the other side. And it's high time that we come to that table, and we need to continue raising our voices on the necessity to be engaged.
What's the situation when it comes to aid? Because there was talk about aid being allowed into Gaza, but a lot of reports coming in that the kind of aid that should have gone in has not. It's still a trickle. So what's the situation?
The aid is entering more than it was before, but not at all to the extent that is needed. I mean, after 2 years of devastation, malnourishment, a scarcity of food and water, you would imagine how much need there is. And today we expect more trucks to be going in, aid to be going in unimpededly, and we expect that the border crossings to be opened as soon as possible so that aid can come through unimpededly.
All right, we're running out of time, but I'll just ask you a couple of more questions. One is that the stability of the region is really now in question and a concern for everyone. Should the matters conflate between America and Iran, how will that impact the region, especially Palestine, that does not have an armed wing to really defend itself? So
any instability in the region will affect the whole region. And as such, any disputes, any conflicts need to be solved around a table. Enough of the armed conflict, enough of the killings in the Middle East. It's time that people sit and talk.
And finally, in terms of India and India's position, in the recent past, you must have noticed and seen a little shift in India's voting pattern at the United Nations. What are your expectations? What are you taking to the table when you speak with your Indian counterpart on what India's historic position has been, the change, and where should India stand?
India should stand with international law. India is a two-stater. India is the largest democracy. India believes in international law, and they should go by what international law says, and as it pertains to Israel-Palestine. It's very clear the materialization of the state has to move on, and we would expect that India moves in that direction. India has been a very good friend for decades, and it has helped with humanitarian assistance. It has helped a lot with development assistance. And we already have several projects in Palestine going on, and we expect that to continue. And we expect it to continue being friends with Israel. We have absolutely no problem with that. We don't want to delegitimize Israel, but we want to legitimize Palestine. And when you are a friend, you can be a bridge if you wish to take that role.
That's a very important message for the Indian administration, to be that bridge. But India is not part of the board of peace. They've still not accepted that proposal or offer by America, by Trump. Pakistan indeed is. How do you see regional and bilateral problems that can be quite visible and evident in a board of peace that is seeking to solve the problem of Palestine?
Look, any engagement in the Board of Peace should be related to the interests of each country, the beliefs of each country, the way they look at peace. And each country is sovereign, and they can decide on their own. If they see that that Board of Peace really meets their expectations, then they would join. If they don't, they wouldn't join.
Do you trust President Trump in bringing about peace? Is he a peacemaker?
President Trump is a doer, and he has a lot of influence on Israel, and we've seen that. So, yes, he can make it, but he needs to look at it from all angles and ensure that whatever vision he has meets the expectation of both sides, including the Palestinians.
My final question to you on terrorism. Do you think that designating Hamas as a terror organization is something that the Palestinian authorities would accept? Because we do know that the Palestinian Authority has not seen eye to eye with the Hamas. West Bank and Gaza have seen different administrations just because of that. What is your position on Hamas?
The position on Hamas is that the people who go along with Hamas are not all armed people. You know, we have people who are very emotional about the whole issue of Palestine, and they look at the authority and they say, you are the peace camp and you are not bringing us much in terms of liberation. So when people become helpless and hopeless, they resort to anything. And terror has different meanings in various contexts. And I look at Hamas as part and parcel of the Palestinian people. If the people see a glimpse of hope, they see a future for themselves and their children, they would look at things differently. And they would start engaging in a vision of Palestine that is more peaceful, that is more towards building and constructing. Today, people have not much to lose.
Not much to lose, but only hoping that they have what every individual and human should have on the planet: rights and basic dignity. On that note, Minister Varsen Aghabekian, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global.
Thank you.